Next we have a prose lesson, Unit 1. Prose. The title of the lesson is The 1 Minute Apology. 1 Minute Apology. It is an extract taken from the book The War Years Volume 3. The War Years Volume 3. This is an extract taken from this book. The book War Years Volume 3. 1 Minute Apology. Apology. What is the meaning of apology? It is the expression of regret. Expression of regret. Asking regret. 1 minute apology. And the subtitle is The Legacy You Leave is the one you live. The legacy you leave is the one you live. Legacy. Legacy means something handed down by people who lived before. That means our ancestors, what they have done for us. That is legacy. And what we are going to do for the followers, for our people, Legacy you leave is the one you live. And from your legacy, whatever the things you leave for the future, for your next generation, on that you live. That means you will be talked about. That is called the live. The legacy you leave is the one you live. Let us go into the lesson. And before we go into the lesson, we have some questions to discuss about. It is the warming up part. Have you ever ignored a friend in need? If any of your friends asked you some help, and did you help them or just ignored them? That is the question. What will you do? Will you ignore or will you help them? Have you rejected his genuine request for help? If his request is genuine, what will you do? You have rejected or helped. Have you felt sorry for what you have done? And if suppose you have not helped him, to a friend who is in need, and did you feel sorry for it? Have you ever expressed regret to a friend? Do you think an apology and excuse are one and the same? And this is a very nice question indeed. Apology and excuse. What is the difference between these two? Apology. Apology is the expression of regret. Excuse means just ignoring the people, the need. So what is the difference between these two? These two are the same? No, they have some different meanings. Let us go into the text. Colonel Scott. A character is introduced here, and Colonel, and when we pronounce this, it is Colonel Scott was one of the commanders of the troops guarding the capital from attack by the Confederate forces in North Virginia. And in America, there was a problem, and the troops mean a group of soldiers group of soldiers and they form a troop guarding the capital from attack. Capital. It is not the capital of a city or something else, and the meaning is it is the building. Where US Congress hold its sessions. Building where US Congress hold its sessions, and it is a building. Capital means it is a building like our parliament, like our assembly, and it is a building where US Congress holds its sessions. Capital, and from attack by the Confederate forces. Confederate forces. What is called Confederate forces? Confederate forces, and it is the league formed by the southern states of America. Southern states of America, and they are against the government because the slavery was not the slavery. They just support the slavery, but the government under Abraham Lincoln was against the slavery. So they just had an idea to attack the capital. So naturally the government has to protect it. In northern Virginia, Scott's wife had drowned in a steamship collision while returning home after a journey to Washington to nurse her sick husband. Scott's wife has drowned, sink underwater in a steamship collision. Collision means hitting head on. Hitting directly, and while traveling, the steamship hit with another ship, and she drowned. After journey to Washington to nurse her sick husband, Scott had appealed to the regimental command for leave to attend her burial and comfort her children. Scott had appealed to regimental command. The regimental means it is a body of soldiers, the form of higher authorities. Regimental. He has applied for leave to attend her burial and comfort his children, to attend the burial of his wife. His request has been rejected. He was not given. Rejected. Rejected means not granted. His appeal for leave was not granted. As a battle seemed to imminent. It means nearing. At any time the war will break out. So they are expecting the war, so they did not grant him leave. His request has been rejected as a battle seemed imminent, and every officer was essential. Essential. Essential means important. Since Scott is a commander, is a colonel, his work is needed to face the war. So his leave was not granted. But Scott, as was his right, had pressed his request up the chain of command until it reached the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton. Edwin Stanton is the Secretary of War, and he has applied to his immediate superiors, and it has reached, his request has reached the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton. Since Stanton had also rejected the request, the colonel had taken his appeal all the way to the highest authority. And Stanton also, and let me write the name of that, Edwin Stanton. He is the Secretary of War. Secretary of War. And at last it has reached, the leave application reached the Secretary of War, and he also rejected it. So he just went up to the highest authority. Scott went to his commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief. The highest authority, and in the presidential office late on the Saturday night, and he himself went to the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief is the president, and at the time the president was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was the president, and he was the commander-in-chief of the country. He was allowed in as the last visitor, and from the morning till night, the commander-in-chief, the president, was engaging the people who has come to him, and Scott was the last person to visit him. Lincoln listened to the story, and as Scott recalled, the president exploded. Spoke with loud voice. Spoke with loud noise. He exploded. As he reached the president, Lincoln, he exploded. Am I to have no rest? Is there no hour or spot when and where I may escape these constant requests? Constant, repeated. Repeated requests. And he was so tired, Lincoln was so tired that he could not have this request in his mind, and the mindset was, he could not have it in his mind. So he just scolded him. Why do you follow me here with such business as this? Why do you not go to the war office, which is in charge of all matters of papers and transportation? And for this transportation, the traveling from one place to another, and why should Scott has to come to him? That is the question. That is, in such a mind, Lincoln scolded him. Why should you come to me instead of going to your immediate superiors for requesting leave? Why should he come to the president? He could have gone to the other people who can give him leave, who can sanction him leave. Scott told Lincoln of Stanton's refusal, and the president replied. And Scott told the Lincoln that the secretary also refused his leave. Then you probably ought not to go down the river. Mr. Stanton knows all about the necessities of the hour. Necessities, the importance of the hour. Now the country is in danger. So, Mr. Lincoln was telling this. Mr. Stanton knows all about the necessities of the hour. He knows the rules which are necessary, and the rules are made to be enforced. Enforced. Rules means it should be enforced. It should be It should be applied. So, rules, once they have formed the rules, they cannot refuse it. They cannot go beyond that. So, that is what Mr. Lincoln was telling him. It would be wrong of me to override his rules and decisions of this kind. Override. Set aside. Overriding the rules. Once the rules were framed by the Secretary of War, he cannot, as a president, he cannot override this. It might work disaster to important movements, and in this important movement, it might give a big disaster. Disaster means great damage. And then you ought to remember that I have other duties to attend to, heaven knows, even for one man, and I can give no thought of question of this kind. Thought of questions. Thought of questions. Here, what he means by this is get involved. If he sanctioned leave to Scott, it will override the rule framed by the Secretary of War. So he refused it. He also refused it. Why do you come here to appeal to my humanity? Don't you know that we are in the midst of war? There is suffering and death pressing upon all of us. Works of humanity and affection, which we cheerfully perform in days of peace, are all trampled upon and outlawed by war, and that there is no room left for those endearing things. And from this, what Lincoln says is, the war is nearing, and they are expecting their death. So, it should not be possible, it will not be possible for him to grant him leave. The peace are trampled, crushed. The peace will be trampled upon and outlawed by war. Outlawed means away from the law. There is no room left for those endearing things. This for having affectionate or something else, and there is no place for that. Room means place. There is but one duty now to fight. Only what we have to do is to fight the enemies. Fight for the country. That is the only thing we can do now. That is what the Lincoln told Mr. Scott. Every family in the land is crushed with sorrow, but they must not each come to me for help. Of course, every family, every member in America is feeling sorry and having some troubles, and they don't come to the president himself. I have all the burdens I can carry. I have all the burdens. That means he has got his own burdens. A very nice saying it is. It is a very nice saying. I have all the burdens I can carry. Told by Lincoln. I have all the burdens I can carry. Go to the War Department. So what Lincoln said, he has got his own worries. So asked Scott to go to his department. Your business belongs there. If they cannot help you, then bear your burden, as we all must until this war is over. If you just go again to your superiors, immediate superiors, even if they refuse it, you just hold your burden on your shoulders and go and face the war. That is what Lincoln is saying. Everything must yield in the paramount duty of finishing this war. Our duty is to face the war. So, everything must yield. Yield means give in. Everything must be given up. All the other works to be thrown out. To the paramount duty of finishing this war. Paramount means most important.